Building Truth's Boxing Legend Show, brought to you by Power Plus Mouthguards, Replenishing Care Technologies, and Gridiron Mo. I'm your host, Mike Goodpaster. Right now I want to welcome in my co-host, Jeremiah Preisser.
Good evening, everyone. Excited to be on. Always excited to be on. Let's talk some boxing, Mike.
All right, our special guest tonight is one of the top trainers in boxing, currently working with middleweight champion Gennady Golovkin on their big fight against Canelo Alvarez coming up. Help me welcome to the show, Abel Sanchez. How you doing, Abel?
I'm doing great, guys. Nice to be with you.
All right. Much is made of Abel Sanchez, the trainer, but less is known of Abel Sanchez, the person. What were your experiences like growing up?
Well, I grew up in the Southern California area, West Covina City of Industry area. My father was a building contractor, and I was on a job when I was about 9, 10 years old, and I became a building contractor at the age of 18. I'm still a building contractor, but boxing now has taken over most of my time.
Yeah, and you put some of that construction experience to use, didn't you? I mean, a lot of people don't know, but from what I've read, you helped build houses on the set of E.T.?
Yeah, actually, there was 2 housing tracks. One of them was a 21-house track, and I did all the concrete and framing. On the first one, it was in Sunland, Tahunga, and the movie the house that you see in the movie, it was lot 7 of that track. And the sticks or the framing that you see on the next in the other scenes is the second housing track that we did. There was 20 houses.
All right, so how did you get into boxing, and who was the first fighter you trained?
Actually, I started kickboxing back when I was 19 years old. I did that for a couple of years, and was in the gym with a bunch of very good fighters, one of them being Lupe Aquino, who at the time was a pro and had like 20-some fights. I did it for about 2 years, and I had to really get out of it because my construction business was not doing well because I was spending so much time in the gym. So I got out of it. I kept sponsoring the gym, but I got out of it doing the training myself because I had to make a choice, one or the other. The business of construction was the one that was feeding my family, and the other business wasn't making any money. So I got out of it and retired until about 1986 when Lupe Aquino had retired by then because he had some issues with management problems. So he was only 23 years old, and in the middle of 86, I coached him out of retirement and got back into it. And within 4 fights, the next year, July 12th, I crowned him junior middleweight champion or super welterweight champion of WBC by beating Dwayne Thomas in the Emmanuel Stewart stable.
Yeah, and businesses are one of those things you got to stay on top of, or they're bound to flounder. But eventually, you kind of met up with Terry Norris, and he was the most well-known fighter you were with before Golovkin. What do you recall of Terry?
Yeah, well, what happened was when I came back from Bordeaux, France, after winning the title with Lupe, Terry and Orlin were managed by the same group, the First Fighter Squadron down in San Diego. Well, Lupe was also by then. So when I came back and I went into the office to get my check and to go over the next fight for Lupe, I was approached to see if I was interested in training both Terry and Orlin. So those are the second and third fighters of my career, my career on my own of training fighters. And all 3, Lupe became champion, Terry became champion, and Orlin was a champion. So we had a great run. I was with Terry until about the 9th defense. I managed and trained Orlin to 6 defenses of the cruiserweight title, and now Terry's in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, not a bad start with those 3 guys.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, from my understanding, Golovkin had promotional issues over in Germany, and they wouldn't let him near Felix Sturm, their cash cow, of course. How did you get in touch with him and get him to come stateside? Well,
because of those problems, the management team that he had put together in his promotional company, GTG Promotions, decided to move him to the States. And the contract with the promotional company at the time was to expire or was close to expiring because they weren't living up to their end of the bargain, which is true. They didn't let him get close to Sturm or to Spick or to Sylvester, to any of those guys that were fighting over there that they had under contract. So he came stateside, went to several gyms, Wild Card being one of them, and several other gyms in Southern California. I think he went to Vegas also. And one Friday evening in the middle of April, I get a call from the manager wanting to meet me and wanting to see my gym. Because by then my gym was already finished functioning. So they came up Saturday afternoon about 1 o'clock. I met with, obviously I didn't know who Gennady Golovkin was when he told me his name. But Saturday I met him and he looked like a choir boy to me. Didn't look like he was a fighter, but he was a guy with 350 amateur fights and 5 losses and #1 contender in the world and a silver medalist in the Olympics. So he was somebody, but I had no clue who he was. He was from Europe, and I wasn't aware of him. So we met there in my gym on Saturday morning or Saturday afternoon, and the two managers decided to go about town and check out the town. Gennady and I went over some tapes or some videos that he had brought, and in my limited Russian and his limited English, we were able to communicate. And what I thought was some things that he could do different, some things that he could have done to make the fight easier and to make it a better fight. So we talked in video watched for about 3 hours before the managers came back. We went to dinner. We spoke a little more about boxing and about where they came from and what they were doing, what they were trying to accomplish. We agreed to get together the next morning because they stayed in town for breakfast at 9 o'clock. When I came home after the dinner, obviously I went to the computer and wanted to see who this guy was, and I find out, like I said, he's a silver medalist in the Olympics, was a 3 or 4-time world amateur champion, was 350 amateur fights, lost 5, had beaten some of the better fighters that would fight pro today at the time. So needless to say, the next morning at 9 o'clock in the morning when I went back to meet up for breakfast, I was in a different frame of mind. I had somebody in front of me that was a very good fighter and with a very good background. So we ate breakfast, and when they left, they said, "We'll see you in a couple of months." I thought to myself, yeah, sure, we'll see you in a couple of months. Thank you for coming up, and it was nice meeting you. And they left. 2 months later, I get a call asking me if I can pick him up at the airport. I picked him up at LAX on Sunday afternoon. He gets out of the tunnel in the international terminal, and he's got one little bag with him. And I said, "What about your baggage?" And he says, "That's all I have, Coach. I came to train. I didn't come to vacation."
Yeah, and I've heard a lot. Oh, sorry. You can go ahead.
We've been together ever since.
Yeah, and I've heard that a lot of the Eastern Europeans are like that. They're very business orientated whenever they get in the gym. But so from watching the film before you got him, was that the first instance where you thought to yourself, okay, maybe he's going to be a dominant figure at middleweight?
No, actually, he was here for about a week, and I was just doing floor work with him. I was just trying to get him into a little big bear shape because big bear is a little different than anywhere else. So by the time he got in a little shape, I decided to let him put the gloves on, and we hit some mitts. As soon as we hit some mitts, which was probably about a couple weeks after he got here, I thought to myself, wow, this is somebody I can really do something with. That's one thing about coaching and about boxers and boxing coaches is that we can teach a lot of things. We can refine technique. We can give you a lot of things, but one thing we cannot give you is heavy hands. When God gave you heavy hands, you're lucky. And when I caught him the first time and I felt it all the way down to my toes, I said, I can do something with this. This is a rough diamond that I could really polish, and I think he could be great. Within a month, I had shown him the video of Julio Cesar Chavez versus Edwin Rosario. And I said, if you promise to give me 3 years without any interruptions, let me do what I need to do, what I think I need to do, and in 3 years, I promise you, you're going to be the best fighter in the world, you're going to be the middleweight champion, you're going to be undefeated, and we are not going to be able to get you a fight because nobody's going to want to fight you.
Well, I think you were definitely proven right there. And one of the funnest pieces of writing I read was when I read about Gennady making headway into America was the sparring stories, allegedly whipping guys like Alfred Angulo and others. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, one of my good friends is Clemente Medina, who at the time was Alfred Angulo's trainer. And I say the story because I'll tell you after, but Clemente was passing the story around himself off the mountain after we got through. But one Sunday evening, Clemente calls me, and they're getting ready to fight. Angulo's got a fight coming up in a month, so he asked me if I had any sparring up here. I said, sure, I got Golovkin up here. He says, who? I said, the Russian kid that trained, Gennady Golovkin. Says, okay, well, we'll come up tomorrow, Monday. And I said, well, before you go, how many rounds did you want? He says, in kind of in a mad way, he says, you know my perrito goes 10 rounds a day every day. So, oh, shoot, excuse me. Okay, so we'll go 10 rounds. So he comes up. Angulo can only go 5 rounds with him the first day. And he hurt him with a body shot, so we had to stop the sparring in the second round. Next Wednesday, he comes back, and he goes, I think, 6 rounds. Friday, he comes back, and they go 4 rounds. Not because mine couldn't go, but because Perro couldn't go anymore. The work was that hard. Sunday, they go home, and on Sunday, that next Sunday, I call him up and says, hey, are you guys coming up tomorrow for the sparring? And he says, no, F you. He says, that damn Russian is going to kill my Perro.
So it took the dog out of the fight, huh?
Yeah. So I go off the mountain maybe a couple weeks later, and I go into this gym, and this guy comes up to me and says, hey, man, who's that Russian you got up there? I said, who? I said, he says, that Russian that killed Perro. He says, I was talking to Clemente. Clemente said that Russian is a bad man. I really didn't know what to do with him. So it wasn't me that was passing that thing. I was his trainer. But he sparred with Chavez at the wild card. He sparred with Quillen at the wild card. And I think there's video on those on YouTube. He sparred with most of the bigger names around town that were willing to spar with him the first time. Now, obviously, we got to hire the sparring, but I think that now we can afford it.
Yeah. Well, and one of those videos that I've seen was him beating up Chavez Jr. Honestly, as big as Chavez Jr. is, in my opinion, that match just kind of looks like a man versus kid because Golovkin beats him up pretty good. I mean, you can see the huge gap in skill between the two. But I mean, you talk about Golovkin and asking him for 3 years. Golovkin looks like a fairly easy guy to train just because he has such a vast well of knowledge about the sport, and he does a lot of things that aggressors, and of course we attribute some of this to you, where he cuts off the ring really well, he goes to the body really well, and he utilizes the jab. I mean, there are very few aggressors with a great jab. I mean, and he always seems to be in shape.
Well, I think that these kids coming from that part of the world come with a different mentality, come with the mentality that they want to learn. They want to succeed and they want to learn, and they don't come because they think they have a right to be here. They come because they want to experience what we have here. Unfortunately, the young men in our system here think that it's their right to get bonuses, to get to train. It's their right to get a per diem. It's their right to have somebody support them and not have a job.
Entitlement culture.
There's entitlement. Yeah, I don't understand that. But of course, we haven't had a gold medalist and even success in the amateurs for a long, long time. Where if you read the papers, Kazakhstan and the Kazakh system over there continues to have not only gold medalists, but the WSB, they were very successful 2 or 3 years in a row. They have a great system, and I think it's because of how they are raised and how they are raised to understand that the world doesn't owe them something. They need to go out and get it.
Yeah, and I think Kazakhstan's won a gold medal at welterweight the last 4 years in a row.
3 or 4 Olympics in a row. You're right.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, so you've got the Canelo fight coming up. Before that, the last fight was against Daniel Jacobs. I know a lot of people have said that, maybe Gennady didn't look as good because he wanted Canelo to fight him. Is there any truth to that at all?
No, that we have never discussed that. But I did mention it to somebody that could this kid be that smart. We try never to discuss the fights, or I try never to discuss the fights that have passed. I want to discuss the fights that are in front of us, not behind us. But he didn't look good because he didn't knock somebody out. Had we got him on such a high pedestal, such a high level that he expected to look
people
like,
really underrate Daniel Jacobs too.
Absolutely. By me saying that he looked back, that's me saying that Daniel wasn't that good. Daniel's an exceptional fighter. Daniel is the second best middleweight in the world, and he will rule the middleweight division once Golovkin gets out of it.
Yeah, I agree completely. So how's the preparation, or have you guys started preparing for the Canelo fight yet?
Yes, he's been in camp since the 1st of July, and we're into the 3rd week now. We're not into the heavy work yet. For me, it's a progression. Go from 10, 20, 30, 40, 50% going up. And we'll start sparring on the 21st of August. I only spar him for 3 weeks, probably 70 to 75 rounds. And we'll be in Vegas. I think he's throwing the first pitch out of Dodger Stadium on the 11th, and from there we go to Vegas.
Excellent. And so I saw that recent picture of where you and Golovkin look like Prohibition-era liquor runners. What is that part of the promotion?
Yeah, that's they're doing a commercial shoot, some little mini documentary about the fight for the pay-per-view part of it. And this is like they're trying to do a 1930s Cinderella Man kind of theme.
Nice.
So it's 1930s look. They did it on Saturday, Sunday, and part of it was today, and that's it. And hopefully it'll come out soon.
All right, so even though Golovkin is your big attraction, he's not the only fighter you work with. You also work with Denis Shafikov. He's won.
Right.
To me, I thought he got robbed against Robert Easter up in Toledo. You want to talk a little bit about Denis?
Yeah, well, we knew that going into Toledo and fighting a young champion like that in his hometown is going to be difficult to win a decision. I think that I was very proud of Denis. He fought a very good fight. He did the things that we wanted to do from the 1st to the 12th. He pushed Robert like I don't think nobody's ever going to push him. Unfortunately, we didn't get the decision. I was a little disappointed with two of the judges. I knew we were going to lose, but because of where we were at. But two of the judges had him losing every round, which is a little ridiculous when everybody at ringside had it being a draw in Toledo. So I'm disappointed by that.
Yeah, and when I was watching the fight, I had Shafikov by 2 rounds, and to be honest with you, I'm a big fan of Shafikov because he does a lot of things that you don't see in aggressive fighters. He's got really good head movement, understands the jabs, use angles. It's just kind of disappointing to see him get so many shots and get bad decision time and time after again. But you also train. Go ahead.
So hopefully we'll get another try at him. I think he's the kind of fighter that people like to see, and he's gonna be a good fight. So hopefully somebody else puts him on again.
Yeah, I hope so as well. And a guy that I've been watching for a number of years, who I believe you still train, is Konstantin Ponomarev. I mean, yes. My favorite fight for him was the win he had over the talented Canadian Mikhail Zuzki. Yeah, and it looks. Yeah, and one thing that I've noticed, the kind of transition that he's made since you started working with him, he used to switch stances a bunch from orthodox to southpaw, but now he looks like he stopped a lot of that. He works behind the jab a bit better, and now it looks like he's fighting Carlos Ocampo next.
Yes, I think they went to a purse bid, and I think they're waiting for a venue right now, but in a date. But yeah, that's the eliminator for the title, for the IBF title.
All right, now you've got a cruiserweight that is getting ready to enter the Super Series also. You want to talk a little bit about him? I really like him, and I don't want to screw his last name up, Abel. So I think it's Murad Yusuf.
Garcia.
Yeah.
Garcia, yes. He's 23 years old. He's in the gym right now, in fact, with Golovkin. They're the only two in the gym right now training. He's my next jewel. I said about a year and a half ago that I thought he would be my next Golovkin, and he's starting to prove me right. He's a young man that trains and dedicates and disciplined just like Golovkin is, and he's going to go a long way because of that. He's got tremendous punching power. He's 6'3". He's 23 years old. He's around, when he comes to camp, he's around 220, so I had to whittle him down to 200. So hopefully by the time 24, 25 years old, he'll grow into a good heavyweight. If this tournament goes the way that I hope it goes, then the winner should get a shot at a heavyweight title like Evander did back when he was unified champion. So yeah, he's an exciting kid. He's an exciting fighter, and he works extremely hard. So everything he's getting because of hard work.
Oh yeah, and you probably want a few more of those in camp. Huh? I mean, this is a lot of these Eastern Europeans. The Ukrainians, the Russians, Kazakhs, et cetera. They all come here at about 25 years old. When they've had a lot of amateur experience, and they're nearing 30 by the time they're on top of the mountain. Gassiev is one of the rarities in which he's young, but I really like him too. I mean, his knockout over Jordan Schimmel was just bone chilling.
And the thing is, he only had 25 amateur fights, so I was able to see him. I have a group of Russian money guys that sponsor a bunch of schools over there, and I was able to go to the schools and scout some of the talent, and I was able to see him, and he impressed me at a very young age. He had 16 fights when I first saw him, and we brought him over, and we've been working with him ever since, and he's developed into what I thought he could develop into, and he's a young boy.
Yeah, and our other co-host for a weekly show, him and I both, and as well as Mike, we're really looking forward to Murat moving up and becoming a heavyweight because with the talent level at heavyweight right now, I think Osiev could be a big player. But of course, we know you've got other fighters under your belt as well. I mean, are there a few more you'd like to mention?
Yes, we train Alex Salcedo also, who is 24, 25-0. He will be fighting the 22nd of September. I believe the fight is in Tucson. I have also Michel Toro, who unfortunately lost a very controversial decision in Evian, France, back on the 1st of July. We fought an eliminator, and I think they're going to order a rematch against a young named Brian Castaño. I believe he beat Errol Spence in the amateur, so he's a very good fighter. He did real well, and there was some controversy about the sparring, but I think the rematch is the order for that. I have another cruiserweight that's 21-0. His first name is Arsen. His last name is very difficult to pronounce. He's an Armenian kid from France. Glomomil, I believe is how you say it. I have,
good. I'm not the only one that has a hard time.
Yeah, no. He's only been with me for about 6 months, so I'm still having a hard time pronouncing his name. We call him Arsen, and his nickname is Feroz, like Fernando Vargas. We have him. We also trained a couple young kids. One, Ruslan Madiev, who is 9-0 as a 140-pounder. I have a kid named Sergei Bohachuk, who's 4-0. He's a 147-pounder. So we have some real good kids right now in the gym.
All right. Just to get your opinion on the big fight coming up that's not Triple G and Canelo, and don't worry, I'm not going to ask you about that Mayweather-McGregor crap. What's your take on the Adrian Broner-Mikey Garcia fight that comes up here in about a week and a half?
Boy, I love that fight. I love that fight because I think this year we as fans have been treated to some very good fights, starting with the Klitschko fight. Jacobs and Golovkin at the beginning of the year, then Klitschko and Joshua. I think this year is turning out to be a better year for boxing. The Garcia fight, I think Mikey should win, but I wouldn't go to sleep on Adrian Broner. Adrian Broner gets motivated to get the sheep. He does not kill himself to make the weight. It could be a barn burner, just like when Broner fought Maidana. I don't think Mikey is Maidana as a puncher. He's a very good fighter, and I think that Broner is in the fight. I think that Broner puts up a good fight, and I wouldn't be surprised if he wins.
Yeah, Garcia's a guy you got to like as a trainer, right? I mean, he's a guy who really understands the jab. Technically, he's almost flawless. He's got good punching power.
Well, you got to understand his father is an excellent coach. Robert really is not the one that trains him. It's his father, Eduardo, who was the one that made Fernando Vargas, and also Robert Garcia. So his father's a retired man now, but he's been really the architect for Mikey, and Mikey is very sound in all areas. But Mikey sometimes has some flat moments, and a guy like Broner could press him and make him have to work at a pace that maybe he's not ready to.
Yeah, and Robert Garcia has a bunch of fighters in his gym, too. A lot of Eastern Europeans, guys like Kovialauskas and whatnot.
Well, actually, he doesn't have those no more. He moved his training center now. It's not in Oxford. That gym has been bought by Aegis Klimas, and it now is named something different. Now Robert's got a gym in Moreno Valley in Riverside, and now his father's working alongside him. And he's got a bunch of young kids, very good young kids that are very good prospects. He's got like 5 or 6 kids that are all undefeated, and they look great when they fight. So it's not like they're being set up with easy fights. They look very good when they fight. So I see maybe in the next year and a half they're having some contenders and maybe some champions.
All right, I've got a question for you. Ruben Castillo, who wins when you guys play golf against each other?
He plays golf very well. I think we're about even. When he has a good day, he beats me. When I have a good day, I beat him. But
I'm pretty sure he told me he usually took care of you pretty easily.
Yeah, no, he doesn't. But
yeah, I didn't think so. I just figured I would bring it up because he said you could ask Abel; he'll admit it. But
Ruben is a hustler. He'll play as good as he has to play to make you look bad or let you win when he wants to let you win. But Ruben is that kind of guy that you want to have on your team whenever you're trying to hustle somebody, because he'll talk you out of a shot. He'll talk to you while you're hitting the ball. He'll do things to distract you.
Yeah, I kind of figured that, Abel.
Yeah. You know what? It's so much fun to play with him. Yeah, he is so much fun to play with.
All right, Jeremiah.
Yeah, no, Castillo's always the one you gotta sprinkle a little salt on some of the things that he says. But just kind of as a final word, I wanted to thank Abel for coming on. I mean, everybody says that you're a nice guy, and just being on here, you've proved it once again. And we're just happy, that you would take the time for us.
Oh, not a problem. Thank you very much for having me on. I enjoyed talking boxing. I think it helps all of us. I think it helps the sport. Hopefully that we tune in to the 16th and watch a real fight and forget the circus act.
Yeah, we're not even going to talk about the circus act. Because this is a circus act, this is a boxing show. But we would love to have you back on after the fight, maybe. If you've got time for us, we'd love to have you back.
I would love to be on. I appreciate you having me on, and just give me a text, and we'll try to set up a time.
All right. Thanks a lot, Abel.
Thank you, Jim and Mike. Have a great day.
All right. I want to remind everybody, check out thegruelingtruth.net. You can check out our new app. You can go into the iTunes store, pick that up. All of our shows are on iHeartRadio, iTunes, TuneIn, Spreaker. Anywhere you find sports podcast, you'll find The Grueling Truth. So for Abel Sanchez, Jeremiah Preisser, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.